Imagine my surprise when I get home from TwitchCon all excited to play PUBG, and then I get on Twitter and see this. Skill-based matchmaking in PUBG. Where did we go so wrong? I mean, alright, maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, but today, apparently skill-based matchmaking was implemented into certain regions of PUBG, and they're going to be testing it out and seeing what it has and implications in the broader sense of this game. So today we're going to talk about exactly what all the details of that are, and we're going to figure out what's going on here, because this is kind of a weird and nuanced situation. But if you guys end up enjoying the video, I guess I would really appreciate a like regardless. I feel like if I didn't make this video telling you guys about skill-based matchmaking, most of you guys would have missed this tweet because it just went so under the radar. I almost missed it. So drop a thumbs up on the video if you're feeling so kind. It is absolutely free. And of course, if you are new to the channel and you haven't already, make sure to go ahead and subscribe, as we are unbelievably close to 250,000. It's inching up close now, and we're almost there. And of course, if you guys haven't already followed me on Twitch, if you want to catch my streams live, make sure to click the link in the description. Go follow me over there, and I'll be streaming live every single day. But I'm going to figure out exactly what's going on with this skill-based matchmaking thing. We got to try to get to the bottom of this. Now, this tweet honestly came out of nowhere. It really happened just as I got back from TwitchCon. And for a second there, I literally thought this was a joke. Like, I thought this wasn't real until I actually clicked the link and read into it. So exactly before we figure out if skill-based matchmaking should be in PUBG, we need to give you guys an understanding of what skill-based matchmaking is in the first place and how it works. Just so that I don't misconstrue anything about what PUBG wants to regard in this, I'm going to read exactly what they wrote in their blog. So they say, North American PC players, beginning Tuesday, August 1st, 9:30 p.m. to Tuesday, August 3rd, we are going to be testing skill-based matchmaking in PUBG for a limited time to gather data on how this changes your gameplay experience. This test will be exclusive to the North American PC server for now. During this test, this matchmaking system will work to place players of similar skill levels determined based upon various gameplay statistics together in the same matches. Our goal is to improve the overall PUBG experience for all players of skill levels, and we highly encourage and appreciate your feedback as you take part in this test. Our intention of this test is to improve the gameplay experience in standard matchmaking games and is unrelated to any potential competitive mode or ranked systems. Please note, due to the nature of this test, you may experience longer than usual queue times as the system works to collect players of similar skill level and place them together in matches. Your feedback is important. We will evaluate several areas during this test, including gameplay experience, queue times, and other key metrics. As we collect data from our test, we will closely monitor player sentiment related to any changes in your experience. This test and your feedback will determine how and if we proceed with skill-based matchmaking in the future. Thank you, the PUBG team. Now, it's important that we read through that because I don't want to misrepresent PUBG's details in any way, but I'm also going to give my opinions on whether this should be good for the game and how it's going to affect it, I think. Now, what this essentially is saying is, hey, your queue times might be a little bit longer because we're going to try extra hard to pair you with players of your skill level in every single match. Now, that honestly doesn't sound too bad on paper, but we're going to try to look at this from both sides of the coin. Now, interestingly, they didn't go into detail about how the skill-based matchmaking is going to be measured, what sort of metrics are going to place you with more quote-unquote skilled players, but just based on my game knowledge of what other games have done with skill-based matchmaking, I can probably get an understanding of what they're going to try to do. Call of Duty has something very similar with their matchmaking where it's going to measure things like KD, score per minute, this sort of thing, but it's not going to take that into full account, and that's not the only driving factor. Connection is by far the most important thing with this algorithm, so it seems like PUBG is going to try to get players of similar skill level when it comes to KD, maybe their score per minute, how many kills average per match, how long they normally survive, all into the same games. However, connection should always be the #1 prioritized thing when it comes to matchmaking like this. So let's say, for example, you're going to be in a match that's relatively skill balanced, but is, you have to sacrifice a bit of ping for it. What it should do is move you to maybe the bracket that isn't as skill based, but that does have a better ping setup. It starts to get messy when you have to balance those two things exactly right, and I don't think any game algorithm is perfect at doing that, and I'm scared that PUBG is going to mess this one up. Before we get to my take on it, let's look at one side of the coin in favor of skill-based matchmaking. Why should this be in PUBG? Many of the proponents for the system suggest that it's going to be really good for newer players to sort of experience it how we did when we first started playing, because there wasn't just this top 1% of elite players that were just extremely experienced on the game before we even got there. Everybody was more or less the same skill level, especially when everybody started out. That skill gap started to expand as more time went on. Some people, stuck with the game. Other people moved on to different things, and that skill gap naturally increased. So the idea is that newer players can play against each other in this sort of like protected bracket in a way so that they can learn the game first and foremost. And I do think that that is important to some degree. Call of Duty also has a special protected matchmaking system. It's this bracket of people who may actually be first time ever gamers and also players two may literally be disabled. So I think it's important to have these special protected brackets, especially for the beginning of people who are learning the game, to sort of get accustomed into it. Otherwise, if you put somebody on a mouse and keyboard or on the controller or whatever for the first time and they've never played a video game in their life into PUBG, they are not going to do well. They're not even going to really have that much fun. There is absolutely a case that can be made for newer players that need to get accustomed to the game, and there needs to be maybe some kind of special protection for at least a little bit for that. But that's where my problem comes in. I don't think at all skill-based matchmaking is the way to do it. I think it is the worst solution to this problem. And especially given the circumstances of PUBG's NA servers right now, I think this is an awful idea. The problem is that we simply don't have enough player resources to accurately do a skill-based matchmaking test. For example, I don't know why they didn't do this in the EU server, where the population is a little bit more healthy and, you know, they would get more data points and everything. So I'm not sure why they chose NA to even begin with. But not only that, but also this is going to destroy any sliver of casual gameplay that remained in this game. Matchmaking is going to be spread so thin, and every lobby you get is going to be unbelievably sweaty depending on what kind of player you are, that effectively you may kind of push all of your content creators and your influencers out of the game. Because what will happen is now you have these longer queue times, so all of these streamers who are normally at this top 1% of players, all of like content creators and YouTubers, people who play the game a lot and really are behind and support your game, are normally the ones that are the best at the game, so they're going to be in the top of this very like elite bracket all the time, and so their games are going to be not only longer to get into, but incredibly sweaty and competitive. And for people like myself who like to stream the game for hours on end or need to get footage for videos, this is very, very bad news. If I'm spending a day to record footage for videos, I literally cannot start until about 1 o'clock my time because I can't find consistent games, because in the morning, I literally cannot find a match of first person on PUBG. And that was before the skill-based matchmaking algorithm is added. I can't even imagine how long it's going to take in the morning now. And when I'm able to find games, and I do find these matches, I don't want to be sacrificing any kind of connection to play with players that are probably more or less sweaty. That simply doesn't make for a good gameplay experience for a lot of these top 1% of players. Like, the thing is, a lot of these streamers and content creators, we like to play this game in a more casual setting. You know, we like going for gameplays and we like streaming it where it's not a super serious match. The thing is, the people who like to play serious often play face-it games, and then there's a competitive rank system coming to PUBG very soon that's like its own thing. So I don't understand for the life of me why we would add a system for skill-based matchmaking within casual games of PUBG on a server that's already sort of struggling to begin with. You're going to put a sour taste in the mouths of all of the people who support your game the most, the streamers and the content creators, and you don't want to do that, because if they end up leaving your game, what do you have left? But I also get the other side of this is, you know, we want to have that special protected bracket for people who are learning the game, and I do think that's also important, but I think there's a better solution to this. I think they should simply follow in the footsteps of PUBG Mobile and Fortnite and add bots to these early bracket. Legitimately, if the algorithm can detect a player of a certain lower skill level when they're learning the game, it should place them in a match with bots where they can get a feel for how games are going to play out. You don't even have to make these bots extremely bad or anything. You know, you can make them relatively high skill, just enough so players can get accustomed to the game. The thing is people can play against bots infinitely. Though, like, players of a certain skill level are a finite pool of resources, no matter if it's high skill or low skill, but bots are infinite. Honestly, I never thought I would see the day that Fortnite would add bots to public matches, but they've done that, and I don't see any harm in PUBG doing that as well if they really need to, and I think that's probably the only option at this point. It seems like PUBG always takes one step forward and two steps back. Like, just very recently, they added crossplay with consoles, so Xbox and PlayStation can all play together. I think that's absolutely great. Wonderful as far as I'm concerned, but we need to also have either PC plus console kind of crossplay going on, or PC needs to have bots added to matches for these lower skill players. And the thing is, this would be able to incubate a lot of these new players and get them accustomed to the game into this middle to higher tier skill, which I don't think bots would even be necessary for matchmaking. That's probably the best thing that they could do for the game at the moment. I literally don't see another solution, and I think skill-based matchmaking for this problem, and especially in this server, is just, it's shooting yourself in the foot. So we've laid this out properly, right? You need to have some sort of player hierarchy in match to match, but you also have like this very, like the bottom of the bracket bracket of people who might be first-time gamers that need to have some sort of protection as they're learning into the game. I think both of those things are important, but the question is, how do you balance that correctly? Well, I think the PUBG community needs to have a continuing dialogue on how to do that. I think the two best options on the table right now are either just add bots to PC lobbies that would probably have to be developed, but I wouldn't imagine it would be that hard to make just an AI version of a player and add that into PC lobbies of players who are of lower skill level who need to learn the game, or maybe even use bots just to fill up regular matches that maybe don't have enough players. I mean, I don't see the harm in that. Sometimes my games will start with like 79 total players in the lobby, so why not fill up the rest of the slots with bots? Just you know, add a couple more. I don't see the problem in that whatsoever. The other option I can think of that would require a little bit more technical capability is crossplay with PC and console. I'm going to stand by this till the end of the day. I think that controller players can still relatively hang with some mouse and keyboard players because games have proved it time and time again. Call of Duty and Fortnite, just to name a few, have had controller players that are just relatively indistinguishable in terms of skill level against a lot of the mouse and keyboard users. The problem is, though, that both of these are suboptimal solutions, right? You don't want to add bots because you want to have a match of all human players, ideally, and then it's going to be an undertaking of doing PC and console crossplay, and also due to the fact that it might be a little bit disadvantaged as well. So both of these are not incredible solutions, but it's what we have. Even if the player pool across the board on PUBG was healthy enough to do skill-based matchmaking like correctly, quote unquote, I still just don't think it's a good idea. Because then we could get into the whole discussion of people trying to get Smurf accounts. Like, I know a lot of streamers would probably pay good money to get accounts with like ridiculously low numbers, so they're always getting into like this lower tier bracket and they can just stomp on people. That's a huge problem in all games with this skill-based matchmaking algorithm. In Call of Duty, you can get into that special protected bracket by reverse boosting a lot, and I could see people in PUBG doing the exact same thing, and I don't think any of that kind of behavior is healthy. So right now, we're in quite the predicament, I would say. Now, thankfully, this is only a test. What we read at the beginning of this video was that this is only going on for just a couple of days, and they're just going to be gathering data to really figure out if they're going to go forward with it or not. But I'm going to give my input in this video, and I want you guys to let me know what you think down below in the comment section, as this directly influences what PUBG is going to do. So let me know what your thoughts are down below, because your input counts. Try to lay this out from both sides as best as I possibly can so you can make a decision on your own. But whatever the verdict for this at the end of the day, I'm definitely going to let you guys know what I think about it, and hopefully hopefully it's handled right, man. I don't think it's a good idea to be adding into the game currently. I think there's better options, and if you can think of a better option that I haven't listed, then I'm all ears, and let me know. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Please make sure to leave a like rating, subscribe if you are brand new around here, of course. Make sure to go follow me on Twitch, where I'll be streaming tonight and every other single night as well, and I'll see you guys on the next stream or the next video. Take it easy, and peace out.